Good evening, everyone. My name is Rob Chubbuck, and we will get started here in just a few minutes. I want to give a few more minutes for everyone that has registered for tonight's webinar to go ahead and get logged in. So I will be back on the line in just a moment. Good evening, everyone. This is Rob Chubbuck. We're going to go ahead and get started with tonight's presentation on engineering cybersecurity, one project at a time. If you do have any questions, I do have my chat window open. Please feel free to go ahead and send me a message there. I will try to respond as quickly as I can. You can also send me emails, although I won't be able to respond until after the presentation. You can send those to rchubbuck, that's R-C-H-U-B-B-U-C-K, and the number 1, at granthamuniversity.edu. Now, I'm going to start off with a little bit about myself, and then we'll get into some different cyber attacks and what kinds of things we see out in the real world, what we can do, and steps that organizations are able to take, and then how we can add this presentation to your resume so you can begin to add a collection of different events and different activities that you do to your resume, answer any questions that you have, and then we'll let you have the rest of your evening. So first, a little bit about myself. I am a cybersecurity engineer. I work for the federal government. I'm also the subject matter expert for the Grantham cybersecurity certificate programs, both the basic and the advanced. I'm an adjunct professor here at Grantham, and on the cybersecurity advisory board. I hold both a Master's of Science in Information Security and Assurance, and a Bachelor of Science degree in IT security. I'm an EC Council certified instructor, Microsoft certified trainer, and I hold numerous other cybersecurity certifications. I also do teach all of the different cybersecurity courses here at Grantham, as well as a number of other people teach those courses. So many of you may have seen me or had me in one of your classes. So let's talk about some of the different cyber capabilities and what terrorists and different threat vectors are doing right now and have at their disposal. You know, terrorism, a little bit of background on that, is any kind of terrorist attack or threat that's out there, and we've seen those attacking different cyber types of events. And we look at cybersecurity is our main importance out there. We're worried about whether a nuclear power plant gets attacked. We're worried about whether our water systems are vulnerable, whether any kind of infrastructure that's out there, we want to make sure that it is protected, as well as keeping our credit card machines and our business operations intact. Each age or each time throughout history, there has been some perceived notion as to what we need to worry about the most. Right now, we live in an age of technology-focused warfare. Right now, the attackers or the terrorists that are out there are looking at cyber as the area to go, the area to attack. It's not the kind of traditional warfare that we saw many years ago for centuries. Right now, you can attack anywhere in the world at any time from any location. Cyber attacks also accompany physical attacks. So if you can take down a nuclear power plant, or you can take down a water treatment plant, or any kind of other infrastructure facility, that puts you into a much better position from a war aspect to be able to overrun those environments. So, you look at areas of the Middle East, if you can attack their infrastructure first with cyber and then come in with your physical attacks, you're likely to be more successful. Cyber attacks are continuing to increase in volume and sophistication and coordination. We're seeing multiple different vectors happening at the same time. And typically they're attracted to high-value attacks. Physical attacks, look at the Pakistan-Indian conflict that's going on, or the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Those are physical attacks that have accompanied cyber attacks at the same time. Right? There's many different potential cyber attacks, whether they're unauthorized intrusions or defacements of websites or denial of service attacks, computer worms, you name it. All kinds of different cyber attacks are out there, and they're all threats to every organization. There's compound attacks, where first what they do is they go after some kind of cyber scenario, such as a water treatment plant, and then they follow that up with a physical attack. These are consequential, devastating, and disruptive events that can impact both the communication as well as commerce areas. We've talked about different cyber attacks that hit infrastructure, such as nuclear power plants, the insider threats. Look at what happened in Iran with Stuxnet. You know, we look at those types of worms and those types of threats, and we have to ask ourselves, what types of things can we do to protect ourselves here in the United States from those types of attacks? Critical infrastructures include your gas, your power, your water, banking and finance, and communications. These are all dependent to some degree on information systems. We have to worry about insider threats and people with specialized skills. We have to worry about thrill seekers or terrorist groups, nation states, whether it's China or Korea or Russia or you name it. There's all kinds of different organizations and groups that are out to attack us. There's thrill seekers. These are what we used to call hacktivists. These are the people that really don't have any political aspirations. They just want to be able to say, hey, I did this. I'm able to get my name out there. I'm the group anonymous. I'm, you know, they don't necessarily have any other reason to do this other than being able to brag that they've done it. We've got terrorist sympathizers and anti-U.S. hackers. You know, these are your extreme groups. These are everything from the Chinese hackers to the different Muslim organizations or anti-Israeli groups or your anti-capitalism groups. Of course, we've got, you know, our terrorist groups, and they've been getting more and more sophisticated in the way that they're able to attack. Sorry about that. Information that was found in an al-Qaeda safe house detailed multiple American targets, making one thing clear: the terrorist enemies of our great nation recognizes that attacks on such targets as nuclear power plants, chemical facilities, the internet hubs, dams, any of these would strike right at the heart of our country. And if given the opportunity, these extremists would cripple America's information, financial, and utility systems. We need to look at ways that we can react to deny them this such type of opportunity. So in order to do that, we have to understand our enemy. We have to understand what capabilities they have. Right now, they're using things like propaganda, recruiting and training, fundraising, communications, and targeting are all being done on cyber. They're doing this all across the internet. Okay? They're able to use their cyber capabilities to take their propaganda and spread it around the world. They're using this for disseminating their ideology and building a nationalistic vision, meaning that they're trying to use the world as their nation state as opposed to just the confines of their geographic region. They have websites that are both in English and Arabic. They look at English sites, they're often toned down a little bit to the more radical materials, just enough to kind of pique people's interest. There's multiple websites out there. There's literally hundreds of websites out there that are doing this type of propagandist activity. Different ones provide news and information with a fundamentalist spin. Islamic religious and military leaders are telling their story, and the rulings on legal and religious matters are what's in the forefront. They're using cyber capabilities for recruitment and training. The Islamic Jihad groups are using the internet to disseminate the training materials so that those that can't attend locally are able to attend on the internet using much the same technology of what we're using here. Many of the manuals might be hundreds or even thousands of pages long, and they're able to distribute them to everybody. They have online message boards that further engage their potential recruits. Many of these sites and message boards provide links to downloadable videos of current and past conflicts. In the Chechen separatist struggles, for example, the videos are used to provide independent evidence that the Mujahideen continue to carry out attacks on the Russian military forces and to serve as a documentary history of these struggles. They use the internet and using technology for fundraising activities. Radical Islam news sites often take online donations. Islamic terror groups also understand how to use this technology to fundraise. There's all sorts of cyber capabilities with communications and security. They're able to securely communicate utilizing different technologies over the internet, whether it's encrypting their email traffic or obfuscating their voice traffic, or using signography, which is hiding the messages within something else, whether that be a picture or be an audio file, but they're able to take that information and share it among their members. And so while many in the military, law enforcement, and the intelligence communities disagree about the ability and the likelihood of a terror group conducting cyber attacks on the United States, there is no doubt these terrorists have been harnessing the internet and computer technology as a general rule. Numerous incidents are cited in email, sometimes coded and encrypted by alleged operatives and associates to communicate with each other. And like I said, the Islamic terrorists, or all terrorists, are communicating over the internet. And in a cost-benefit analysis, we can look at, from a business standpoint, their costs are very low because they're able to share this information to an unlimited number of users quickly and easily. Computers are also used to gather targeting information or used to create targeted packages. So we're able to do research utilizing the technology, much what was like back in 1993 with the World Trade Center bombing. We found information on water systems. We found information on construction and the building of buildings, as well as SCADA evidence that the Al-Qaeda operators are spending time on sites where this software is developed and disseminated. So we know that they are learning how we build things. And so they're able to target our most vulnerable areas. Attacking America's human capital, economic centers of gravity, cultural icons and symbols of power in audacious, unexpected, and even bizarre manners is what Osama bin Laden was advocating for. That's actually what all the terrorists are advocating for. They're trying to look at ways that they can, from afar, impact on the United States. As early as 2002, the CIA found that the possibility of cyber warfare and attack by terrorists was at a critical mass. Right now, we believe there's between 20 and 30 nation states that are developing significant cyber warfare capabilities. So from a national standpoint, we need to look at how can we address this? How can we stop these types of things from happening? Now, although a lot of my talk here has been kind of focused on what terrorists are doing, don't be fooled that the terrorists are the only threat that we have to look at from both a organizational standpoint or a commerce standpoint, but these are the same types of tactics that any hacker or any threat that's out there is going to try to come after our organization. So what can we do? Okay, and I say here, you know, we have to manage the life cycle. What does that really entail, and what does that really mean? Okay, life cycle management. Where does it break down? Why change, and why do projects fail? These are the fundamental project management types of things that we have to look at when we're trying to protect ourselves. When we think about the different aspects of any kind of threat, terrorist, hacker, vulnerability, anybody, and the failure to manage the information and communications technology operation using a life cycle or life cycle management will lead to unreliable and insecure products. So if we look at many of the different threats and the different activities that have occurred where something has been vulnerable, let's go back to one of those early examples where we talked about the Iranian nuclear power plant with Stuxnet. What happened there? Somebody took a USB drive, plugged it into a system. That USB drive had a worm, we believe, that then infected the SCADA system at that power plant, which then created all kinds of havoc, caused the centrifuges to run wild, etc. So when we look at that, what could we have done, or what could have been done by those in that facility? Well, first off, through lifecycle management and through different processes, technology could have been used to block the ability of a USB drive being plugged in. So when you're thinking about lifecycle management and what things we can do, we have to look at how can we prevent those things. So by managing the life cycle, technology systems that are globally connected through layers of software can be protected. Okay? The technology life cycle, the continuing presence of a large number of defects in a product or systems will reinforce the idea that we need to do a better job. We need to do better jobs in our process management to make sure that these processes are protected. We need to look at the development of software and systems in a very systematic manner and make sure that security is at the forefront. Okay. The best way that we can do that is we look at a single framework. Now here we're looking at a model for a framework, and you can use any framework as long as it is a repeatable process within your organization. So given a range of activities embodied in technology work, there's a number of different frameworks that are used, whether it be an umbrella framework or a waterfall framework or even agile. You can use any of one of those methodologies followed by a security model that you also have in place. Okay. What are the benefits of standards? Standardization will formalize how we build products or how we build systems, because we're doing it in a repeatable way in a secure manner. We're going to clarify the different policies and procedures that need to be followed on an ongoing basis, and they need to be done the same way each and every time. We have to take steps to ensure that the people, the human factor, constantly understands that best practices are developed and documented by an organization for a reason. We have to make sure that the importance of those people is to initiate, direct, and sustain that all of their behavior is done in a secure manner. We need to make sure that this ensures a person's willingness to consistently execute to achieve the common goal. And the goal is a secure system. The role of strategic management is to establish and sustain the proper long-term functioning of the system. Effective life cycle management starts by creating an enterprise-wide operation whose purpose is to integrate those components into a single unified management function. Technology life cycle is a formal series of steps, and those steps are repeatable over and over and over again. And with the objective is to keep proper alignment between the overall goals of the organization and the key activities that are being carried out to achieve that. So in doing so, we want to make sure that we've built a secure system that we can reproduce in a consistent manner that is secure. And we need to make sure that we have a detailed level of planning to implement and integrate these components over and over and over. Life cycle is composed of a coherent set of best practices. These practices are, here again, they're security related. Now we want to make sure that they are defined by the policies. So the organizational policies need to be developed to ensure that the organization is following this repeatable step in a very organized manner. This will ensure the alignment between the organization's technology processes and the business goals, or the organizational goals. We have to have agreements, okay? So early on, when an organization is either outsourcing or they're looking to bring something in, they need to come up with what agreements they need to have in place to ensure that any third parties or different departments are taking and factoring a secure framework as part of building out these different systems, okay? There's a framework that was developed by the Homeland Security to describe the concept of establishing these specific processes to ensure the reliability of purchased products, but this can be expanded into all organizational products. And the aim of the Enterprise Software Security Framework is to factor all responsibility for achieving secure into a who, what, and when structure. So you want to make sure that your developers are coding in a secure manner. You want to make sure that your network administrators are following security guidelines. You want to make sure that your organization as a whole is following all of those different things to make sure that from top to bottom, your organization is protected. So in this graphic that's on the screen, it's a cycle. You constantly are looking for different threats and different risks, and you follow that through specification design, secure coding, testing, a pre-release, and then a deployment. And that just cycles around over and over throughout each one of your development cycles. You do the same kind of thing when you're looking at rolling out of systems, as well as software, as what's in this diagram. Okay, processes. Okay, why are organizational processes important? Let me just check the chat box here real quick. Okay. All successful projects need to have flexibility and control, both, okay? According to different standards, one of them being the ISO 12207 standard, there's 5 different processes that organizations need to go through. Other frameworks and other standards will have different names, different steps. But if we look at just the 12207 standard, you've got a life cycle model, you've got an infrastructure management model, you've got a project portfolio management process, human resource management process, and quality management process. And each one of these is a cycle within itself. So when you're developing a project, think of it as a cyclical process where you're going through over and over and over. So you need to make sure that the sequence of interconnected activities, you're keeping your security in mind. So go back to our different threats. You make sure that you're constantly looking, you're constantly reviewing. How can I make sure that I am engineering a secure environment? Well, one of the ways that you do that is you routinely test that environment. You routinely validate that all of your settings, all of your configurations are still secure. You make sure that during each release cycle of new software, you've gone through and you've revalidated everything. Every time that you have to perform a system patch, you've gone back and made sure that the patch didn't invalidate something that was keeping you secure. Okay. The 5 project enabling processes will help provide the essential framework of an organization based on maximum flexibility and absolute control. The lifecycle management model process establishes an organization's policies and procedures for system lifecycle processes and defines the organization's lifecycle model. The infrastructure management process establishes and maintains the resources needed to address project and organizational objectives, and the project portfolio management process controls the commitment of an organization's funding and resources to establish and maintain those projects, keeping in mind that includes security. And then the human resource management process provides projects with skilled people needed to meet the project objectives and maintain the competencies of an organization's staff. So we want to make sure that all of our people that we have in our employ or that are within our organization are looking at things from a security-minded perspective. We want to make sure that we've got programmers that are programming in a secure manner. We want to make sure that we've got administrators that are administrating our systems in a secure manner. Okay. Here again, we go through a cyclical project and we looked at the different project management and different aspects of the different project processes. Okay. We go through risk management activities. So to determine the scope of a different process, organizations must answer 2 questions. What is the likelihood of an identified risk occurring, and what's the anticipated impact going to be? Now, is this something that is reasonable as far as a threat, or is this definitely going to happen? If it happens, is everything going to come down? And that's constantly what we're having to do. We're having to weigh the risk within our organization. Okay? So we have to measure that. So in risk analysis, so when we've identified a different threat or a different risk or configuration issue, we have to gather the information and focus on the understanding of what the risk is. We have to document the mitigation strategies for every risk that surpassed a certain threshold. And we have to define the measures for evaluating potential mitigation. So if we take a scenario and we say we've got some vulnerable software, we'll pick on OpenSSL. Okay, it's a cryptographic library used by most systems out in the world right now. There's several vulnerabilities, and we know that we need to patch it. We know that there's vulnerabilities out there that could allow hackers or terrorists or anybody to break into our system to cause issue to our system. So we know that the threat exists. We know that the vulnerability itself has not only been disclosed, but also the steps needed by someone to expose that vulnerability have been published. So we have a high likelihood of occurrence, depending on our organization, but high likelihood that there will be occurrences of that threat happening. And if that threat is successful, we have to then measure what's the consequence. Well, if we are a financial organization and we're protecting our customers' assets, say we're a banking organization and we've got an open SSL vulnerability and we've got attackers and threats that are out there that are able to expose that vulnerability, that could have a very high consequence. So this risk analysis graph here, we would plot where that risk lies, whether it has a high, it seems to me that it would have a high likelihood of occurrence, maybe a medium or medium high, and it would have a relatively high consequence. We could lose customers, we could lose money, whatever. So every risk process must be designed to fit within that environment, and we have to take it through configuration management to build around the maintaining of the baseline control. So we have to make sure that we go through and we test every step along the way, and we go ahead and deploy in a secure manner and patch our system. Okay. Problems that capability models address. Okay. Here again, capability models are frameworks that can be used. There's a number of different ones out there, and in some of our classes we actually talk about those different capability models. I'm just going to touch a little bit on it here, just to save a little bit of time, but to give you an idea as to what they are. And in some of our programs, like I said, we do get pretty detailed in how these work and in the different models that are out there. But security issues fall into 5 different categories. Okay? The installation of malicious code on hardware or software. So when we're talking about hardware, we're talking about rootkits or firmware updates, or we're talking about software where somebody installs something on a system. Installation of counterfeit hardware or software. We've seen that primarily with SCADA systems, although it's existed for many years, where counterfeit hardware, software, or fake systems have been deployed, where you think you're purchasing a system by vendor A, and you find out that you're really getting something from the knockoff. A failure or a disruption in the production or distribution of a critical product or service. These are things like your denial of service attacks or your distributed denial of service attacks. Your reliance upon a malicious or unqualified service provider, okay, to perform the service. So if you hire an ISP, internet service provider, that can't keep up with the types of performance that you need, or if you hire a vendor to do the management of your systems or do the patching of your systems, maybe they're just not qualified to be able to do that for you. Or the installation of unintentional vulnerabilities. Okay, what does that mean? That means somebody said, hey, I need this software, I'm going to download it off the internet. They download some kind of software off the internet to fill a need, and unfortunately that software has vulnerability. Or maybe it's, you know, ransomware or hackware or something like that. So that's the 5 different categories that would be addressed by your capability models. And the reason being is those capability models would then have restrictions on those different types of things, saying don't download software, don't do this, how to do different things. Malicious code embedded in a product to fulfill some hostile purpose. So when you go through your testing, you would have found this out. Counterfeit parts threaten product security because they're not authentic. So you may not get support. Okay. During the 21st century, there's been a range of these different capability models. They're models that are based, well, the rest of this book I have, you can see I took the slide from one of my classes, and all of them provide an excellent basis for developing a fully functional process that ensures the best practices in development. Okay. A couple of these capability models include the capability mature model, the systems secure engineering capability maturity model, the ISO 21827. Now the ISO is an international standard. Okay. The software assurance maturity model and the building security maturity model. And if anyone is interested in more information on those, just shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to send you out more information on those specific items. So what else do we need to look at? If we know that we need to have secure systems and we need to build both secure systems and software from an ethical and moral standpoint in protecting our organization, what else do we have to do? We have to align with different regulatory requirements. So depending on where your organization falls, you may fall under the requirement to follow Sarbanes-Oxley, SOX. Or if you're in the medical area, you may have to follow HIPAA. Or on the government side, we have FISMA. Here on the education side, we have FERPA. I mean, there's lots of different regulatory reasons as to, or regulatory areas that we all have to follow. So that's another reason. So not just from a standpoint of an organizational trying to protect itself from terrorists and threats, but we also have to protect ourselves from the regulations that dictate that we are to make sure that we're secure. Right? We have to understand the role of government regulation. We have to understand how the Federal Information Security Management Act, or FISMA, impacts us. We have to understand the different purposes of the different NIST documentation, such as FISMA, which is NIST Special Publication 800-53. So we've got all of these different things that we have to make sure that we address. So I know I've kind of rattled on pretty quickly tonight and just really touched a very high-level aspect of these different things. Originally, when I started to put this presentation together, it was much longer than this and much more detailed, and I was told that I really needed to tone it down a little bit. I was getting a little too far into the weeds, which I agree. And I want to thank the people that reviewed my presentation and gave me the feedback, because it definitely would have gone, you know, definitely too deep. But I want as takeaways for each one of you to consider. Within your organization, you need to look at who are the different threats. Whether if you work for the government or you work for the military, you're thinking of terrorists, you're thinking of nation states. If you're working in the commercial sector, you may be thinking of your competition, or you may be just thinking of disgruntled customers, or kids that just want to hack into your system. You may be looking at, if you're in the financial sector or something like that, where somebody is really trying to steal something, you may have different threats. So you need to look at everything from a top to bottom angle as to what things can we do to make sure that the security of our organization is protected. And we need to make sure that we start from the top to the bottom to build that cybersecurity and that cyber engineering, one step at a time. Now, one thing that I did want to bring up before we get to any questions that anybody has is to make sure that you can add this presentation to your resume. And it's important to add any of the presentations, especially when you're in school, that you've gone to, that you've attended. It shows the dedication that you have to learn as much as you can about the different subjects that we're teaching here at Grantham. So you can add a line similar to this with today's date, although as you can see I used last year's year. Use today's date, the name of the presentation, my name, and Grantham University. You just add that to your resume. And again, please feel free to email me at rchubbuck, that's R-C-H-U-B-B-U-C-K, and the number 1 at granthamuniversity.com. I'm sorry, granthamuniversity.edu. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to drop them into the chat window. Okay, anybody have any questions? I'm more than happy to answer anything anyone has. I had a question above. Oh, I got to find it. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Let me go through. I'm looking through the questions, and it's really small on my system here. So let me go ahead and just run up here really quick. Sorry about that. And put the last slide back up. Okay, which class goes through this? In the cybersecurity sequence, we go through different aspects of it. In IS 411, we also go through in the regulatory class. I will take this offline, and I will send you a list of the different classes and the different aspects as well. Okay, I've got a question. What happens when the security plan is implemented is not followed by the company because they want all the information fax rather than on computer storage? Well, one of the problems when we have a security plan is you really have to have senior management's buy-in. You have to make sure that those people that are at the top of the organization are committed to being secure. If you don't have that, it makes it very difficult. Now, fax is not a very secure method of doing business. There are ways of making it a little more secure, but overall it's really not secure. Unfortunately, it's one of those things. If they don't want to make it secure and follow the security plan that they have adopted, there's not a lot you can do other than note that they're not following the security plan. If you're talking about an organization that is required by law, such as a government entity or somebody that is having to follow something like SOX compliance, there are different ways that you do report violations, and it just depends on what area, which ombudsman that you need to contact for that. Okay, what are some of the ways to engineer against the insider threat? All right, the insider threat typically is an employee. It's somebody that has come into your organization and they've already gotten some level of access. The way that you guard against the insider threats is typically through training, background checks, making sure that your organization is practicing the concept of least privilege, so that you don't have you have very few people that have the keys to the castle, so to speak. But you make sure that some of those different processes and procedures that need to be done require more than one person to do, much like you'll see aboard ships. You'll see when you're going to go shoot a missile somewhere, it's not an action of one person. It takes multiple people to be able to do that. So you want to make sure that those types of processes that have that kind of elevated exposure are using multiple people. Thank you about the very good lecture. Are you doing any more soon? Right now, I believe there's one lecture a month. I'm not doing one next month, but we will definitely keep you posted on any other ones. Turnover of employees that have access. As part of your policies and procedures, when an employee leaves your employment, there should be a process. There should be an offboarding process that is put in place that dictates the different steps that an organization should take immediately. Many times, before that person is even leaves the organization, walks out that door, their accounts should be cut off. Their access should be cut off. So you do that through a matter of procedures and process, but every organization should have that. The sharing of unsecured information across non-secured devices can cause problems as well. Absolutely. And I'm sorry I didn't see these questions coming up when I was going through. That is definitely a problem, and we've seen that. It's been in the news constantly because information does get shared where you may have classified information on unclassified systems. The same thing can happen when a businessman is, goes into a Starbucks, logs onto his computer, and jumps onto a wireless signal that he thought was Starbucks and it wasn't. Meanwhile, somebody is capturing all their information. So it's not just unsecured versus or classified versus unclassified. It can happen even in the commercial sector as well. question about what certifications are needed in cybersecurity. It really depends on what area you want to work in. There is if you're going to work for the federal government and you want to work in cybersecurity, there is a Department of Defense mandate called the 8570. And based on your job and the task, so if you're going to be an information assurance individual, you might have different requirements than if you're going to be a system administrator. Same kind of thing applies if you're going to be a technician versus a manager. However, that said, I highly recommend that at a minimum you get your Security Plus. And the reason for the Security Plus is that marks the most boxes at a lower level. And I would also consider working towards your CISSP. And your CISSP is kind of, in my book, is like taking the Security Plus and putting a little bit on steroids. It's much more in depth. It's much more of a grueling exam. So you have to go a lot farther with it. But it's like gold to have. So, like I said, at a minimum, a Security Plus. Ideally, a CISSP. Now, if you have limited experience in the field, you can still get your CISSP. It would just be a CISSP associate level, but that would give you a leg up, and there's more and more mandates that are coming down the pike on that. So if you do a search on DoD 8570, you'll see the grid on that. Okay, someone missed the beginning. This presentation is being recorded. I believe we're going to be publishing the slide deck as well. So if you'll send me an email to rchubbuk1@grantham.edu, I can get you that information. I hope I'm getting all of these answered here as I go through. Is it common for the websites that contain malware? All websites, I shouldn't say all websites. Many websites will have malware or other malicious materials. I'm assuming that you're going back to some of the sites where the terrorists are using those. Absolutely. You never know what you're going to download. It's just like if you go on to some of your websites where they have movies and videos and things like that. You never really know what you're going to download. Same kind of thing happens on any of those terrorist websites. Is Grantham planning to offer a graduate cyber degree? I believe that they're working on it. We've talked about it in the past, and we will definitely keep you posted as we go forward. And if someone is interested in becoming a cybersecurity specialist, what direction should they take? Here again, my feeling is that you need to have three things to be successful in any of your IT career, whether it be cyber security or IT management or information assurance in any of these different areas. I think number one, you need education, and by going to Grantham and getting your degree, that's step, in my book, this is my personal opinion, that's step number one. As you're going through your education, you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're getting some experience. Now, that experience does not necessarily have to be paid on-the-job training. Ideally, hey, if someone will pay for you to learn, that's great. But you want to make sure that you have some tangible experience. You've gone through and learned some different things that you can talk about. So when you get into a job interview, you can talk about some of those different things. That's one of the things that when we were building the cybersecurity certificate programs, we tried to interject. We tried to put some labs in there that gave some tangible things that a student could do that were actions that were similar to what you would do in potentially in real life. So that's why we did that. And then the third thing is certification. And the certification aspect is a way that an organization can really measure you against others. So you have a degree, you have some experience. Now I need that. I've got that third-party certification that says, hey, this person really knows their stuff. I'm about halfway through my degree and was wondering, and was information system security. I'm wondering how difficult it is to get actual exposure in the cybersecurity field. It's something that you build upon. As you go through your career, you try to put yourself into positions where you're able to expand your knowledge, where you're able to leverage the things that you've done and learned. I recommend reading, get on the internet, and read about different things that happen, look at current events, attend these types of presentations. Grantham does them, other organizations have them. Look at some of your different events that are on. Some of your other big software vendors have similar webinars and discussions. By gaining that kind of information, that will help get you the exposure that you need, and you will also find out about different opportunities that are out there. So as we go forward, you can volunteer for different organizations. Be willing to accept a lower end job, something that doesn't require as much experience, to position yourself to get into that area that you really want to get into. So you may start off as a desktop technician, and then you show the organization the types of security aspects that you know about, and that can get you into where you want to be. How well respected is the EC Council Secure Programmer.net certificate? Any of your secure programming certifications, there's a couple of them out there. I keep thinking they're going to catch on more and more. It's definitely something that if you have, it gives you a leg up. I don't think that I wouldn't tell you that if you have the chance to either get the secure programmer certification or say the CISSP, I would go for the CISSP first. But if you want to be a programmer and you want to work in an organization that is required to have secure systems and practice secure programming methods, EC Council, their certifications are very good. Also, on the 8570 grid of different certifications that are worthwhile having, EC Council does have a couple of them on there, including Certified Ethical Hacker, and I believe the Certified Hacking Forensic Investigator is still on there as well. How important do you think using foreign computers and parts in government systems? I'm assuming you're kind of addressing the, should we worry about somebody putting a part that came from a foreign country? There are laws in place, there are regulations in place. that prohibit the import and export of technology for certain things. However, there definitely is a risk out there because we do get certain chipsets and things from areas of the world where they may not have the kind of regulation that we have. So there definitely is a perceived issue with that, and something that needs to be really watched. So if you are using a system that is handling classified data or really highly sensitive data, you're going to want to look at that much more closely than if you're using your home computer. But when we talk about government systems, I think it's worth considering. I don't know that I personally would subscribe to the craziness that some people have about it, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but some people get hypersensitive about it. Just depends on what that part is. If we're talking about a whole system, I don't know that there's certain areas of the world that I probably would not want to get a system from, in other areas that I wouldn't worry about. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Does this count as continuing education credits towards your CompTIA certification, your CE? Yes, it does. All that you have to do is put the information down on the presentation and indicate that you attended it. And then go into your CompTIA portal and make sure that you add it in there. Concerning government threats, can the government reset the internet? I'm assuming you're asking, can the government, shut it down? There's aspects of the internet that, how do I answer it? The government can't just push a reset button and shut everybody off the internet. It just can't happen. It's too big. It's too widespread. There's too many things that really rely on it. So there is no way to do that. However, can an organization, and when I say organization, I'll use that kind of loosely, whether it's a government organization or a third-party country or something like that, there are things that they can do to impact the internet. Absolutely. We've seen that in the past where things like denial of service attacks have originated from Russia, from China, from other areas of the world. Also, you can change the DNS settings or the domain name servers and redirect traffic. That's done to a point. Also, you'll see certain websites when they're taken offline, and that's done really on a onesie-twosie kind of thing rather than resetting the internet or shutting it completely down. Somebody asked about JICT. Absolutely. Oh, it's if you're asking what it is, it's a certified it's from ISC squared, and it is a certification that is based on now I guess it's seven different domains. There used to be 10, and they've collapsed that down a little bit. But it's definitely well worth pursuing. You're asking about the last slide. I don't know which last slide that was. Assuming maybe that one. Okay, here again, there's a question about the graduate cybersecurity degree. I know it's been talked about. I don't know where we're at with that, but we have had some conversation, so it may happen at some point. But just keep in touch and everything else. And if that comes out, I will we'll let you know. Okay, I think I got all the questions. If I missed anyone's question, if you'll repost it, I will answer it right away. Anybody have any other questions? Christopher.
Oh, I don't need to talk. I had a question that was
sorry.
on my thing. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I put it in the chat.
Okay, I'll go ahead and let me go back down there. Sorry about that. I don't see it, Christopher. Sorry. Hey, Christopher, sorry about that. I took you back off
That's
mute.
okay. What my question was if we signed up for the seminar, you were saying something about adding it to our schooling.
Yes, yes.
What you just? Can you go over that again for me?
Right. If you by signing up for the seminar that puts you on the list for it, we recommend putting the seminar on your resume, and I put that slide back up. So just add that to your resume, and it's also added onto your student history.
Okay, that was all I needed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for attending. Okay, does anybody else have any other questions? I'm more than happy to answer anything that anyone has. I believe the both the brief as well as the recording of the presentation will be made available. I just need to coordinate that with the university to distribute that. But I believe that will be made available to everybody. Okay, if no one else has any questions, we'll go ahead and we'll wrap this up. I want to thank everybody again for attending tonight's webinar from Grantham University. My name is Rob Chubbuck. I am one of the professors here at the university, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.